Last month on May the 6th, when Donald Trump announced a ceasefire deal with Yemen's Ansarullah fighters, also known as the Houthis, it stunned many, including the genocidal regime of war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. Although Trump tried his best to imply that the Houthis had begged for the ceasefire, it became abundantly clear that it was the other way around. And the US had requested the Sultanate of Oman to impress upon the Houthis to not target US ships in the Red Sea. The Houthis agreed to positively respond to the US request, provided Americans stayed out of the Yemeni fighters' campaign against Israel in solidarity with the people of Gaza. America also agreed. Did it ever occur to you why Trump was so quick to agree to every single demand of the Houthis, as long as they didn't target the US ships in the Red Sea? This is a very important question. And the answer lies in the latest revelation made by the Wall Street Journal, an American publication. It has just carried an investigative piece titled "How the Houthis Rattled the US Navy and Transformed Maritime War." Reading this piece would make it absolutely clear that Trump simply capitulated to the might of the Houthis. Well, Trump too accepted this indirectly on several occasions when he acknowledged the Houthis' bravery.
But so we do. We take their word for it. It was, we hit them very hard. They had a great capacity to withstand punishment. They took tremendous punishment. And, you could say there's a lot of bravery there. It was amazing what they took. But we honor their commitment and their word. They gave us their word that they wouldn't be shooting ships anymore, and we honor that.
According to the WSJ report, Trump's decision to seek peace with the Houthis was taken without any consultation with Pentagon, whose officials felt that this would compromise the expenditure of a whopping $1.5 billion to fight the Yemeni fighters. Yes, if you go by the Wall Street Journal report, the US had spent a whopping $1.5 billion in munitions and deployed roughly 30 ships, which is 10% of its active fleet, to fight the Houthis over the period of 18 months. And yet, the end result was that it had to request Yemeni fighters for a ceasefire. You know why? Well, there were several reasons. The Houthis apparently stunned the US with their creative warfare and use of low-cost but sophisticated drones to sink US ships in the Red Sea. Americans had kind of accepted the Houthis' superiority in the Red Sea way back in August 2024, when the then Pentagon spokesperson publicly admitted his administration's incompetency after the Houthis sank a British ship, MV Delta Saunian.
Turning to the Red Sea, last week on August 21st, the MV Delta Saunian, a Greek-owned oil tanker carrying approximately 1 million barrels of crude oil, was attacked by Iranian-backed Houthi crude vessels. As reported by the Greek shipping ministry, the MV Delta Saunian was sailing from Iraq to Greece with a crew of 2 Russian and 23 Filipino sailors. The crew has since evacuated the ship with the assistance of a partner nation vessel. The MV Delta Saunian now sits immobilized in the Red Sea, where it is currently on fire and appears to be leaking oil, presenting both a navigational hazard and a potential environmental catastrophe. Although the Houthis have claimed that they're conducting these attacks in support of the Palestinian people, their actions prove to the contrary. In fact, these are simply reckless acts of terrorism which continue to destabilize global and regional commerce, put the lives of innocent civilian mariners at risk, and imperil the vibrant maritime ecosystem in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, the Houthis' own backyard.
That was in the Biden administration. Things worsened even more for the US after Trump became the president. In May this year, which is last month, a $67 million FA-18 Super Hornet crashed into the Red Sea after a landing malfunction aboard the USS Harry S. Truman, marking the 3rd jet lost by the aircraft carrier in under 5 months. Incidentally, This was the same day that Trump announced a ceasefire deal with the Houthis. US Navy officials, according to the Wall Street Journal, described this crash as unprecedented, raising concerns about operational strain and systematic risk within the Truman Strike Group. USS Harry S. Truman is an aircraft carrier. There are only 7 countries that have aircraft carriers, and they include the US, the UK, France, India, Russia, China, and Italy. That's why when it emerged that the USS Truman had sustained damages, this further heightened the anxiety of the Trump administration. The US said the damage was due to unexplained collision, but many claimed that the Houthis were behind this so-called unexplained collision. What gave the Houthis superiority against the mighty Americans in the Red Sea was their creative tactics. The Red Sea's narrow geography also played to Ansarullah fighters' advantage. US ships, often within visual range of the Yemeni coastline, simply struggled to maneuver freely. Former Navy strategist Brian Clark, he warned, and I quote, "You make it a sitting duck out there and within range of the Houthi weapons." End quote. The damage caused to the aircraft carrier USS Truman was a sign of a long-term damage caused to the US Navy. Congressman Ken Calvert, who chairs the House Defense Committee, warned during the May the 14th hearing that this persistent operational tempo comes at a cost, citing delayed maintenance, overstretched crews, and diverted attention from China.
Today we meet at a time of increasing global instability. The Navy and Marine Corps are under extraordinary operational demand, responding to threats across every domain. For the past 19 months, naval forces have engaged daily combat operations in the Red Sea to protect international shipping from Iranian-backed Houthi attacks. These actions underscore the critical role our fleet plays in maintaining freedom of navigation and the security of global commerce. At the same time, we face a rising near-peer challenge in the Indo-Pacific. China continues to build the world's largest Navy, surpassing the U.S. Navy in both ship count and shipbuilding capability. China is on pace to surpass the United States Navy in firepower in the coming years. Already today, the Chinese far outnumber us in hypersonic weapons. In any potential conflict with China, the Navy will be the linchpin of our ability to protect and project power across the vast Indo-Pacific region. I want to be clear today. The aircraft carrier serves a critical role in power projection and will most certainly continue to provide the joint force with extraordinary strike warfare and unrivaled air superiority as we enter the Davidson window and beyond. That said, we cannot effectively operate carriers without aircraft. I'm alarmed by the downward trend in Navy's procurement in strike fighter aircraft over the last several years. Today, the Navy faces a growing shortfall in strike fighter aircraft as our carriers sustain a grueling and intense operating tempo in the Red Sea and around the globe. Over the past year, the Navy has operated under intense and sustained combat conditions in the Red Sea, the most active maritime conflict zone in a generation. Daily missile and drone engagements against Iranian-backed Houthi forces have turned theoretical warfighting concepts into real-life execution under fire. These operations are yielding invaluable insights into missile defense, unmanned system integration, and command and control in a high-threat environment. But this persistent operational tempo comes at a cost. Ships and crews are being pushed hard, deployments are being extended, and readiness for other global contingencies are being strained.
Then the Houthis destroyed 7 US Reaper drones worth more than $200 million in recent weeks, marking the most significant material loss yet in Washington's campaign against the Houthi fighters. Ever since Trump resumed the US military offensives against the Houthis using F-35s, stealth bombers, and additional carrier strike groups, it resulted in the deaths of hundreds of Yemenis. Although the Trump administration claimed to have destroyed weapon stockpiles and other military installations, this didn't appear to affect the Houthis at all. The missile and drone attacks became more coordinated and varied, shifting from predictable high-altitude launches to low-flying, nighttime raids. In one dramatic incident, the USS Stockdale intercepted four ballistic missiles during a tense nighttime exchange. There are reports that the Houthis have destroyed over a dozen Reaper drones, with each costing $30 million. So we are talking about almost $500 million worth losses for the US Armed Forces. Now this is huge. Aside from financial losses, the fact that the US claims to have the best armed forces in the world, such monumental losses by a group of rebels in one of the poorest countries in the world is pretty humiliating for the US. A US officer expressed amazement at the Houthis' resolve and ability to adapt. According to this officer, and I quote, "Their missiles are getting more advanced, which is crazy. So far, the US Navy is battling 1,000 on interceptions, and I expect that to continue, but for how long?" End quote. Now this should worry Israel. The last time when Houthis almost destroyed the Ben Gurion airport, the Houthis said that they deliberately didn't target the civilian facilities. But since then, Israel has gone on to destroy the civilian infrastructure of the Sana'a airport. This has made many fear that the Houthis could soon directly attack the Ben Gurion airport and other civilian facilities. This gives you an idea about the unsafe world that we live in. And it's all because of the global silence to the biggest Holocaust since World War II by a group of genocidal maniacs from the settler colony of Israel. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.